Okay. Next up, the final region here. We're going bottom right, the West region. This is just a laughable region. Kansas against Howard. Shout out to Howard, by the way, Kenny Blakeney over at Howard. Kansas is a team that I am extremely looking forward to watching in the NCAA tournament. This is the team that I think is just like exceptionally dangerous. They are just very good on both ends of the court. I'm a big believer in Kansas, as we'll talk about here in a second. But the matchup that I want to talk about most is Arkansas, Illinois.
Oh.
This little pocket here, these games are in. Where are these games?
They are being played in Des Moines, Iowa.
I would imagine that Des Moines is going to be the most popular spot for NBA scouts this little stretch here for the next week. And Arkansas, Illinois is a big reason why. Illinois has guys like Coleman Hawkins, Terrence Shannon, a whole lot of interesting younger guards. Obviously, they can go a little bit bigger with Danger if they need to. I am fascinated to see what in the world happens with Illinois against Arkansas. Two guys that I think are really good, like one-game coaches, and Brad Underwood and Eric Musselman. Two really, really flawed rosters. Matthew Mayer has been a guy that throughout his career I have had a lot of questions about, but over the course of the close of the season, outside of that game against Penn State, has been really, really good. Can Matthew Mayer guard anybody on Arkansas? Can Arkansas space the floor in any way, shape, or form against Illinois? Arkansas is the more talented team. Arkansas is going to be maybe the more talented team in every game they play other than Kansas in this region. It's just they have no spacing and the roster does not fit well together. What do you think of this fun Illinois-Arkansas matchup?
I think it's two teams that are limping into the NCAA tournament, or like just begging to be put out of their misery in some regard. Like it's ugly basketball with both of them lately, where Illinois, their offense has always been really strong under Underwood, but I struggle with their defense. And Arkansas, they can't space the floor at all, and it makes it really hard to get crisp evaluations on guys like Anthony Black and Nick Smith moving forward. You want to bet on Arkansas just knowing that they've got the two more talented guys and enough shot making from Smith that it might be able to overcome in a really competitive situation. But it's just so hard to trust either one of them. And I think both of them will be fun matchups for Kansas in the next game. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of this one.
I don't either. I think this could genuinely go either way. This is like a pure toss-up game to me. By the way, in terms of the lines here, Kansas is a minus 21.5 point favorite against Howard. Arkansas is a minus 2.5 point favorite against Illinois. The computers don't even really like either. I guess they like Arkansas a little bit more than their record. They're 20-13 and they're still 20th in KenPom. I don't know what to expect from this game. Neither of these teams have been anything resembling consistent. Neither of these teams have been anything resembling reliable in any way. I guess that I don't know. Coleman Hawkins is actually a pretty big differentiator in that game because of his ability to just step out in space a little bit with his pick and pop game and his passing and his short roll game. But can Danger take advantage of the Mitchell twins on the block? Maybe. I think that Illinois has some real potential schematic advantages. I just think that Arkansas is probably the more talented group, and it's hard for me to go against talent on some level here.
Yeah, I think I would lean towards the Razorbacks for that exact same reason.
Man, I don't know. That's going to be a total toss-up for me until we get there. VCU St. Mary's is a really fun 5-12 matchup. St. Mary's is a 3.5 point favorite against VCU. One thing I will say about this VCU team is they closed the season exceptionally well. They struggled losing to Temple and Jacksonville early in the year. But you look from December 11th onward, and this team went 21-3. They went 15-3 in the A10. They win out in the A10 tournament, all with double-digit victories. Ace Baldwin has been terrific. Jaden Nunn has started to really come on. over the course of, I would say, like the back quarter of this season. He was really good against St. Louis, had a 31-point game against St. Joe's late in the season. On top of that, I just trust like Brandon Johns to be able to match up with some of the guys that St. Mary's has on the interior. St. Mary's is a really good team. Aiden Mahaney is one of the most fun guards you're going to get to watch in the NCAA tournament this year. Logan Johnson is a really strong, high-level creator as an athlete. I would have thought that I would have picked St. Mary's to go pretty far in this tournament. I really trust them on defense particularly, and I trust how able of taking advantage of mismatches they are on the offensive end with their ability to space the floor. I think VCU gives them some real problems athletically in this matchup.
I'm just going to hit the retweet button on that. I love Johns, I love Nunn, and I love Baldwin. This is a gritty team that's been on fire lately. I got VCU here as well.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that like Ace Baldwin is a killer defender, and they're just going to toss him on Mahaney, and it's going to be hard for Mahaney to really create offense for them, I think.
Yep, totally. And I love Randy Bennett, like one of my favorite coaches in the country. Absolutely love what St. Mary's has going up there. But this VCU team seems like they're on a war path right now.
Yeah, 3.5-point favorite, St. Mary's. I'm also going to go VCU in this circumstance. That is a plus 150 money line for what it's worth, according to our friends at BetMGM. Okay. Next up, UConn Iona. My goodness. I mean, can you imagine the Northeast apocalypse that's about to happen here? Iona has won 13 or 14 straight games. I'm sorry. They have a lot of really high level guards. The UConn Huskies are one of my favorite teams, and I would have bet you coming into this whole entire tournament, I would have had Connecticut in the Final Four. This is a hard matchup for Connecticut in the first round, though.
Really hard, really hard to be able to get past. And like everyone's going to make a big deal about Rick Pitino and the rivalries that he has, the potential departure out of Iona. This is a very good basketball team. Very good basketball team. And need I remind you, a year ago, the league champions from the MAAC, the Big Mac, ended up going on and beating Kentucky. That was St. Peter's. So don't sleep on this conference in this league. Really good players in there. Clayton, the guard for Iona, has been sensational throughout the season. But I'm with you. I've been a big believer in Connecticut for a long period of time. I love the way that they can overwhelm you with size at every single position. They can pound the ball inside to Klingon and Sonogo whenever they need to. And when they do that, it makes it really hard to account for somebody like Jordan Hawkins, who can just go off in a moment's notice. So I think I'm going to go with UConn here, but certainly an intriguing matchup.
Yeah, here's the thing for UConn that I think is just like intriguing at the very least to me. Iona is one of the few mid-majors that just size-wise can match up at all with UConn, right? Like they have Osborne Shima, they have Nelly Jr. Joseph. Like these guys are relatively bigger, like 7 foot tall. Nelly Jr. Joseph is 6'9". Like they're physical. They're willing to like battle with you on some level, right? The problem in this game is that even though those guys are big, Iona is a particularly bad defensive rebounding team. They were in the bottom half of the MAAC this year in defensive rebounding. They were 272nd in defensive rebounding nationally this year. UConn is the best offensive rebounding team in the country. Adam Sonogo and Donovan Klingon just create second chance opportunities like crazy. I think Connecticut's going to be able to create too many second chance opportunities and win this matchup because of it.
Yeah, I think that sounds right to me.
Connecticut lives on in my heart as a team that I would like to pick to go quite far. I will say Connecticut is an 8.5-point favorite here. That line seems rather large to me.
Yeah, it does.
I'm a little bit worried about that. Okay. Next up, we have got in the bottom half of this region, TCU against the winner of Arizona State, Nevada. Arizona State, Nevada is at least like a little bit more interesting to me. I don't hate these teams. I think that Nevada is kind of a sneaky, talented group. Like they have a former 5-star center in Will Baker. Keenan Blackshear is like really good on both ends of the court as a creator, primary at 6'6", and someone that's like switchable and gets into passing lanes and does a lot of interesting playmaking things at the lead guard spot. Darian Williams is a guy that I continue to get asked about by scouts is like, are we sure he's like not a 2023 NBA draft prospect? My answer is always no. But he is someone to track for the future as like a 6'6" wing who can kind of dribble, who can kind of defend, who can kind of make shots. This is a bigger team. Nevada can step away and shoot the ball a little bit. Arizona State is a team that makes a lot of mistakes. I do think that I would pick Nevada here. I don't know how much I'm going to like enjoy watching this game though.
Yeah, I agree. I'll go with Rutgers here. Oh, wait, I can't because Arizona State's in the field. No, I love this Nevada group. I'm absolutely right there with you. A lot of young, talented, bigger guys. Positional size is something that I always point to as being an advantage in college basketball, particularly if you're not going to get beat at the point of attack as a result of it. So I'm going to go with the Wolfpack here.
Okay. I think I agree with you. Next up would be TCU there. TCU, it just comes down to how much do we trust that they're healthy? How much do we believe in their lack of size, seemingly without Eddie Lampkin?
Yeah.
This is a team that's basically going to go like, 6'7" and shorter at times. Like Xavier Cork will step in and start at the very least, but I don't know, man. TCU is just they're seemingly in a very strange spot where they have not shot the ball well at all this year. And I think you're going to be able to just like pretend that they can't even shoot defensively. And I think they're going to be a little bit easier to scheme for in a 1-game setting, kind of like this.
Yeah. Look, TCU, super, super fast. They want to go in transition like none other. But they don't shoot the ball particularly well, and they're missing their interior presence in Lampkin now. I don't know how they can beat a team if the game gets slowed down into a little bit more of a half-court slogfest. And like we talked about earlier, in March, with all the media timeouts and all of the good guard play that you encounter, it's a lot easier to slow teams down than it is to speed them up. So I was originally going to be really high on this TCU team to make a deep run in March. I loved their makeup. I loved the competitiveness. I am a huge Mike Miles Jr. fan. But all that's gone on over the last couple of weeks with this program makes it really hard for me to trust into them making a deep run. Plus, I keep going back to one of the 11 seed winners from that first 4 games tends to win their next matchup every year. I'm going to go with Nevada here in that one.
Yeah, I think I'm still going to take TCU against those teams, but I wonder if this next one would be a little bit more difficult for them. Obviously, we don't have a line on the TCU game. I probably should give you guys a line on that first game. I didn't mention that Pitt is a 1.5-point underdog against Mississippi State. Arizona State is a 1.5-point favorite against Nevada here. I don't know that it matters because Gonzaga is the 3 seed here, and I'm probably going to just bet on Gonzaga to go pretty far here. Gonzaga has been a buzzsaw recently. They have the best offense in the country. The defense has gotten manageable. They aren't great defensively, but they are manageable defensively now. The problem is that they're just going to outscore teams, and particularly against Grand Canyon, I would imagine that they're going to have no issues outscoring Grand Canyon.
No, what they did to St. Mary's in the WCC championship game is quite legitimately one of the most grotesque things I've seen in a long period of time happen on a basketball court. They annihilated a 5 seed in this tournament and absolutely made them look terrible. I'm going to be pretty high on Gonzaga moving forward.
Yeah, so since January 22nd, they lost that game against Loyola Marymount on January 22nd. or on January 21st, January 19th. I'm sorry. I keep like mixing and matching here dates and things. They lost to Loyola Marymount on January 19th. I'm trying to pull up what Gonzaga's offense has done since then. They have a 132 offensive rating, according to Bart Torvik's system here. That is 10 points better than anybody else in the country. That's how good their offense is. Their offense is like 8% better than anybody else in college basketball right now. They're a buzz saw on offense. I really like Gonzaga here. I really like Gonzaga to make the Sweet 16. I will say TCU could cause them, like if anybody's going to cause them problems on like offense, I do think the TCU could. You know, they do have the guards in Mike Miles and Damian Baugh to be able to like really pressure some of Gonzaga's ball handlers. And that's the thing that I think you can do to Gonzaga that worries me. I just don't think they have the size to like manage Drew Timme inside, unfortunately. And I think Timme playing Texas teams particularly leads to a lack of success for those Texas teams. Okay. Last two little games here. Northwestern, Boise State. Northwestern is a team that has a really good backcourt in Bubui and Chase Odige. Boise State is a team that has a really good backcourt with Marcus Shaver and Max Rice. What do we think happens in this matchup? Your bet's as good as mine.
Yeah, like look, I'm searching for a synonym for toss-up because I feel like I've said that about every 8-9 or 7-10 matchup in here. This one's two similar teams. I really like Northwestern and their experience and the way that they compete in the backcourt, but Boise State is a very good offensive group, and Tyson Degenhart, another underrated player, the way that he's come on over the last 6 weeks of the season, really spacing the floor and being more of a stretch 4 and even at times a stretch 5 for the Broncos. I'm going to lean towards Northwestern here, but man, am I uncomfortable about really throwing my weight behind either of them.
So I'm going to go Northwestern here because the way that you've been able to shut down Boise State this year has generally been just high ball pressure against guys like Shaver. And I would assume they're just going to throw Odige on him and just like really, really cause problems to try and initiate offense for Boise State. For Boise State. Yeah. I'm going to take Northwestern here. This is like a real toss-up game though, for sure.
Yep.
Okay. The last one here. UCLA against UNC Asheville. We've got actually like kind of an intriguing matchup because Drew Pember is like a very, very good player and could theoretically cause them some issues if a Dembona is not 100%. If a Dembona can't really play in this game, I'm a little bit worried about UCLA. Now, Bona, it seems like, I hope is going to be fine. I don't know. Like Bona did not play against Arizona, and that's what worries me, right? Like if a Dembona is not going to play in this game, this becomes like a real interesting problem for UCLA to solve because Drew Pember is 6'10". He can step out and shoot. He can cause all sorts of issues for you in terms of just spacing the court. And even his like post game, his like mid post game is pretty strong. UCLA is also going to be without Jalen Clark in this game for sure. UCLA won me over in that game against Arizona, competing against Arizona and the way that they did. Even without those two, I think UCLA still just kind of out toughs them and wins. But this is like a wild one to watch, I think. This is a real wild one.
Wild. UNC Asheville was going to be one of my trendy, like if the 15 beats a 2 this year, it's going to be them. And then they draw the Bruins, who are super banged up and could be without their 2 best defenders. Clark done for the year, and Bona, the backbone to everything that they do in terms of pressuring on the perimeter and protecting the basket at the same time. If Bona can play, I think he manhandles Drew Pember. Pember struggles with strength and physicality. I think Bona has enough lateral quickness to be able to stay with him and give him issues. And I think UCLA wins actually pretty handily. If there's no Adem Bona, this is a super fascinating matchup because Asheville is deep and they shoot the lights out around Pember. It's not just one skilled big guy who's making everything happen for them. Tawan Jones is one of the best shooters in the country that nobody really talks about for Asheville. And without Jalen Clark blanketing him, he might be able to get free, particularly if the Bruins have to give extra attention to Pember. This is a super fascinating one for me. And I don't know if I would pick it as a first round upset because picking a 15/2 is just bracket suicide in some regard.
Yeah.
But I think it makes me long term doubt how far I can send the Bruins in my own bracket just because I'd be worried about this one on the first round in the back of my head.
That MGM has UNC Asheville as a 14-1 underdog right now.
Oh, hammer that.
They have better than a 5% chance to win this game, I think. They do.
Yeah.
I think that it's not like it's probably like a 15% chance, but they have better than a 5% chance to win this game, I think. I would take UCLA here. Mm-hmm. Again, I trust Jaime Jaquez. I trust Tiger Campbell. I think that they can get through this game. I think they can probably get through the next game. And they're defensively really tough. And if they get healthy with Bona, by the time they play Gonzaga, that's what they need. Like they need a Adem Bona against Drew Timme, like desperately, right?
Yep. And that is going to be probably the most enjoyable watch of the tournament, if it comes to that.
Yeah. Okay, let's do picks.
Yep.
Kansas against Howard.
Kansas.
Arkansas, Illinois.
Arkansas, I guess.
I'm going to take Arkansas as well.
Yeah.
VCU, St. Mary's.
VCU.
Agree. UConn, Iona.
UConn.
Agree. TCU and Arizona State or Nevada.
I'm going with the 11 seed there, regardless of who it is.
Okay, and you would pick Nevada if I remember correctly?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go TCU. Gonzaga or Grand Canyon?
Roll Zags.
Okay. Northwestern against Boise State.
I picked Northwestern. Just toss up.
Agree. UCLA, UNC Asheville.
UCLA with that giant asterisk on Bona's health.
Kansas, Arkansas.
I am going with Kansas over Arkansas.
Agree. VCU, UConn.
Upset special, Rams over Huskies.
Okay, I'm going UConn. TCU, in my case, Nevada, in your case, against Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
Agree. Northwestern against UCLA.
I'll go with the Bruins here.
I will also go UCLA there. Connecticut, in my case, VCU, in your case, against Kansas.
Jayhawks.
I am taking UConn, and I don't know how good about it I feel. Gonzaga against UCLA.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me, particularly knowing where health is going to come from. I am going to go with UCLA.
Okay, I'm going to go Gonzaga. You have Kansas against UCLA.
I'll go rock chalk with the Jayhawks.
Okay, I have UConn against Gonzaga, and I am going to go Connecticut there. So your Final Four, I believe, is Alabama, Marquette, and then Indiana and Kansas, right?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, so Alabama, Marquette.
Whew. This is a really fun matchup. Great offenses, underrated defenses. My heart says Marquette. My head says Alabama. I'll go with Bama.
Okay, I also have Alabama, Marquette, and I'm also taking Alabama.
Yeah.
Indiana and Kansas for you.
I just have to go with Kansas. Too much firepower for that one.
Okay. I have UConn and I have Houston, I believe, right?
Yep.
I am going to go Connecticut there.
I love it.
And I then have Alabama and Connecticut in the final, which is a game that we've seen already. And we have seen Connecticut win that game already this season by 15 points. In your final, you have Kansas and Alabama. Who wins?
I am going to go with Alabama, just the most consistent team throughout the season.
I am also going to go Alabama. I think Alabama has been the most consistently good team throughout the course of this season, along with Houston. Frankly, I think Houston's a good pick here. I am also going to take Alabama to win the title.